you think you know what's about to happen. We've all got our models in our head. We're all trying to think exponentially, but nobody's figured out that we're about to put, within the next 5 years, we will have AGI brains in humanoid figures. So this is something smarter than us by maybe 5 or 10x in a figure that is stronger and more adaptable than we are.
Yeah.
We're not ready for understanding what that means.
No, but it actually makes the investment environment a little bit tricky, because if you look at the S curve of the LLMs right now, they still roughly double. They even accelerate versus a logarithmic regression now, but they roughly double their capabilities of competing with a software engineer every 4th month, maybe every 5th month, right? So we're very early in that S curve. And, a very simple analogy back to COVID, when we were in this part of the S curve during the early innings of COVID, it was the timing where the Imperial College in the UK ended up concluding that everyone would die within a couple of years, right? Because it's just impossible to extrapolate anything at this juncture, right? Because you don't know the slope, you don't know whether the slope will continue for years or decades or whatever, right? It's just impossible. So every time a sector is faced with this AI kiss of death right now, the simple response from investors is just to say, okay, if we extrapolate this, the left tail will get very, very nasty in this sector, right? We've seen that in trucking all of a sudden because of a white paper suggesting that you could increase your output 300% without adding to costs in the trucking industry and so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden, the trucking industry just loses 25% overnight, right? We've seen it in software as a service, obviously, but we've seen it in many sectors, and it makes it very difficult to avoid these drawdowns. I've had a look at the S&P 500 over the past month or so. We've never ever seen this many stocks with more than with drawdowns bigger than 7% in 1 day trading periods without a complete crash in the index. But we're not seeing a crash in the index. So you have these rolling drawdowns across sectors, and then suddenly they rebound again because
it tells you people can't, as you were saying, extrapolate what is signal and what is noise. They just don't know how to, because we're dealing with something very new and very fast. And so it's really difficult for the market to get a handle on until it can find its next narrative to grab hold on. And that's why so many people moved out to the commodity sector, emerging markets, because that was an easier story to tell.
But still, Raoul, the emerging markets trade is still very AI driven, right? Because if you look at the emerging markets equity index, it's heavily concentrated in South Korea, for example, where you have Hynix and Samsung, basically two of the major semiconductor manufacturers. Look at the trade statistics between Korea and the US and Taiwan and the US, right? They're through the roof due to the semiconductor exports. So even the emerging markets trade is AI linked at this juncture. And I think this is a very relevant point to make because, sure, a lot of these investors are scared of the Capex cycle right now, but they're still buying the companies on the receiving end of all of this Capex. So they still trust that the Capex will be undertaken, right? Because they buy TSMC, they buy Hynix, they buy Samsung, they buy some of the landlords, capable of building data centers and so on and so forth, right? So they expect this Capex to continue. They're just scared of the paying end of it, not the receiving end of it, if you know what I mean.
So you obviously like this video enough that you've got to the end. That's quite a big task. But listen, do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button, and also check out what video's next, because I think you'll love it. But if you want even more, and when I'm talking more, I'm talking about member-generated ideas, incredible alpha, research, everything there to help you in your journey, just head to realvision.com/join for the best financial intelligence out there and the pure alpha that's within the platform.